Minute.
Oh, it says now. It says your event is starting. Oh, I think we're good. We might be all right.
The bull run.
Okay. Somebody else can check. Somebody else can have that stream up and look.
Oh, there it is.
Yay.
Whoa.
It says now. It says your event is starting. Oh, okay. I can hear myself in the audio though. Someone's got that.
The bull run.
Okay. Somebody else can check. Somebody else can
I got this nice little bit of stuff hanging off the back of my head.
It
live?
says now. It says your event is starting. Oh, okay. I can hear myself
All right,
in the audio.
cool.
Though.
We are streaming.
Cool. All right. So episode 2, right? I mean, that was fun, right? Some of us are not exactly YouTube proficient, but we still have episode 1 that nobody else has seen yet because I have not cut it. Not a ton of cutting to do. I was playing around with trying to get the green screen stuff to work, and it was like it was all, and plus the audio is really bad. So there's a podcast available, I believe, but there's nothing online. But now that I'm back and halfway alive, we figured we would try it this way. So
what's wrong with the audio?
Oh, it's terrible. It's out of sync, and it's just.
It's
I mean, if the podcast itself is probably fine, but trying to watch the video is a little rough.
Yeah. Well, I was commenting to everybody else that I say, a little too much on that one to release it publicly. So we will see.
Do you want me to edit out every time you say,
That's going to be a lot of editing. I think I do it like 20 times in a row once.
We went from a 45-minute video to 22. So,
yeah.
Anyway, all right, cool. So how do you guys do this before? Who wants to start? What do we got?
Well, the round table. Welcome everyone. We have pretty much a full house tonight. We got Eric, Colin, Jay, Jared, myself. Welcome to the whopping 7 people watching now. You guys are great.
Fucking famous.
Yeah, I don't have the list in front of me. Jay, I think, has it. So if he just wants to.
Yeah, we have a buffet of topics to pick from. Ethereum and the Constantinople hard fork. Tron had quite a few stories over the past week.
Tron.
Ripple keeps making the news. It seems like they're a pretty good marketing machine. Cryptopia was brought to our attention by Eric. He's got quite a bit to say about that.
I lost money.
Right, and then we have, I have some choices with Binance backed and Goldman was in there, so I don't want to neglect Wall Street. So yeah, what are you interested in starting in? Do we want to?
Oh, I'll jump in on Tron. I like Tron.
Why don't we start with Tron?
I've been waiting for that.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Well, so I've been watching Tron over the past I don't know, 3 or 4 months. I don't know if we mentioned this on the last roundtable that we did last week, but just a lot of stuff coming out, a lot of good news. It seems like so Tron basically, I wouldn't say it's a clone of Ethereum, but it runs Solidity. It has I think the Tron VM. Basically, it's like Ethereum. Except Ethereum, when you're getting 35 transactions per second-ish, Tron, you're getting 2,000. So they made a big splash the beginning of last year, last February or March, when they bought BitTorrent. And so, I don't recall off the top of my head where they got all their money from. But,
from the ICO.
It was the ICO? Okay, yeah. So yeah, it's just basically they've been in the news, been watching them, started getting really interested in it, like I said, this past couple months, because I was seeing more and more just, good stories about them. It seemed like they were getting a lot of good press, with their network and everything. I've been looking into it more, and I started thinking like, wow, maybe this is like a big competitor to Ethereum. If you got Solidity and you can run all the, basically the same contracts and everything, that's pretty awesome. And we know right now too, Ethereum's kind of in the dumps a little bit because of the whole, hard fork coming up. They keep delaying it. Tron keeps having all this good news. They're having a developer conference. What is today? Wednesday, tomorrow, in San Francisco. So it seems like, you know, they're in this kind of uptrend on the news, and Ethereum's in this downtrend. I've been playing around with Tron and their, you know, Web3, you know, library and things like that. So it feels very almost identical to Ethereum, with good news and stuff like that. So I think it's something that I'm going to definitely be probably playing around with more and keeping my eye on. I mean, the fact that they can do, you know, supposedly 2,000 TPS is a pretty big deal, right? What's Bitcoin at 3? Like I said, Ethereum's 30-ish. And, you know, Solidity, right? You want to go to EOS, which is going to be, I think EOS does more TPS, but you got to write in C++. Yeah. And they have all that crazy governance shit going on too. So,
well, Tron and EOS have the same type of system. They're DPoS, but Tron theirs is TPoS, which I don't know exactly what that means. But for anybody, sorry, I'm going to be the maximalist stick in the mud. Anybody who understands what DPoS is, it's delegated proof of stake, which means the guys who run the nodes who get the block rewards are elected by the community. I know this because I've been using Steemit for a long time, so I'm really, really familiar with how these things work. And yeah, so you have 27 validator block producers, and that's a big red centralized flag. You know, the machines that you need to run the block producers, you know, those are pretty high-end machines run, you know, through AWS or whatever other service. So they're big red flags when it comes to, you know, the whole centralization, somebody wanting to step in and censor those blockchains. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean,
for traders, you know, yeah, you can trade and make money off of them, but you know, keep in mind the architecture behind the coin itself.
Isn't that some of a trade-off though? Like, isn't that why with Dan Larimer, you know, loving his DPoS, wasn't that more of a trade-off between centralization and complete decentralization? Because I can make the argument that BitShares hasn't gone anywhere because of that, because it's so decentralized, nothing happens, you know, and there may be cases where rollbacks make sense. And I guess
BitShares could be too just timing, right? I mean, you know, maybe they were just too early for all this stuff.
It could be. I'm playing devil's advocate, really. It's like, what if the solution isn't exactly on one extreme or the other? What if there is something kind of towards the middle, you know?
Well, I agree with Eric on this part. It's like, I do believe POW, Bitcoin's full, you know, decentralization. I mean, you know, that's what makes it the most valuable one, I think, right? And besides, of course, you know, the length and being the first and everything. But that being said, using my modern citizen that just looks past all the bad things for the good things type of viewpoint, you know, if I'm looking for an Ethereum type of platform, I'm going to look maybe towards Tron more instead of Ethereum. And, you know, the fact that their blockchain is, you know, faster, I think that's going to help a lot of people.
To be totally honest, when the original DAO hack happened, I thought Etsy was going to be the victor. I thought people would vote for and keep the original chain, you know. I did not expect everybody to kind of go, yeah, okay, cool, you know, and let's go with this, you know, the new version, right? I mean, I guess it makes sense in retrospect, but at the time I was like, oh yeah, stick with the original chain, right?
So here's the other thing though, and sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. If you look at go to oh man, I don't have it open. Tron Tron.app, I think.
I can pull
Or
it up.
search for
I can pull it up
Tron
behind you.
dApps or whatever.
Tron, yeah.
Let's see.
Tron Gap House.
Yeah, there's even one that's better that I just pulled up earlier. Let me see if I can get a hold of it.
I can pop it behind you or whatever.
Colin and I were looking at it. Oh man, I wish I could find it. Shoot. It's on my. Let me see if I can do this without crashing everything.
Without breaking the internet.
Here, dapradar.com. There it is. Open that up.
Okay.
Dapradar.com.
Yeah,
Boom. Now you can wait, scroll back up and narrow it down to Tron apps.
All right.
Oh, you have it on. Oh, yeah. Now look at all these. Look at how many of these things are like betting and gambling apps, right? It's like the top, all the top ones, top 10 plus.
Same with EOS.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's like we're looking at Colin and I were looking at a bunch of these, and it's like 480 a K, 4.2 million a day, 6 million a day. It's just like, dude, there's definitely some money flowing on these. So it's like you could take that whole argument of censoring and everything like that, and it's like, yeah, I mean, these would probably be the platforms where you could leverage it the most. I would imagine.
Hey, we're not seeing on the stream.
Yeah, because now that I clicked it, now I'm gonna have to sit here and switch between voices. So it should be on the stream now. But if I click and highlight something while somebody else is talking, now I'm just gonna have to kind of keep up with you guys. So it's fine. I was busy trying to pull that screen in behind the active speaker, but that's okay. It's all good. You should see it now.
Yeah, so I mean, Jason and I were delving into the Tron protocol, but on the basis of the its suitability for dApps and that transaction rate and the amount of money that's being flowing through some of these applications, like TronBet has $58.2 million flowing through it in a 24-hour period. I mean, it's a serious chunk of change, and you need to really consider that when you're these kind of decentralized apps and where you're going to build them.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, and I would say, we have to take this. Let's celebrate that this is another cryptocurrency application that has real team doing real work, and it's heading towards our goals of acceptance of cryptocurrencies on a much bigger platform. And then I would also add to that a lot of the cutting edge with the explosion of the internet back in the day was led by gambling and porn. And hey, there's something to be said about that.
So the first porn dApp we see on a blockchain, buy that coin.
yeah, totally.
Well, let's make it.
There's a smart thing.
I'm not sure what it is. I have no experience in that industry, so.
And so I guess I'll just kind of round it out with this, and then we can move on to the next one. So we keep this going. But this is another thing I talked to Colin today too, and it's like being in the startup industry and dealing with money, VCs, all that stuff, going through enough of those cycles to see how all that system works and everything. I'm looking at a lot of these things now, and everybody is, in the mainstream media is pretty much like, they're just all down on blockchain. They have their, they're enjoying sticking, the fork in the pig and whatever, right? But you look at a lot of these, like that GOC, for instance. I was looking at them and I was just like, wow. They have a DEX. They got their gambling site. They have a platform that they're establishing for building things on top of their stuff. So it's like, I think there's the real smart people have been and still are on the banking side as well. They're buying into all this stuff now. You know, they're getting in literally pretty much at the bottom of all this stuff. And, you know, I knew this already a year or two ago, but it's like in a year or two from now, everybody is going to be developing apps like this. And you know, you can just you again, you just look at these, go through this Tron list and just look at some of these things, and you're just like, dude. So
Well,
there we go.
And I know you'll wrap it up, but my question to you guys is that, you know, what does Ethereum look like compared to this? Right.
I was just about to ask the same question. Like exactly. Yeah. Right. So what makes Tron superior to Ethereum and how?
I would say TPS.
Okay. Well, I'm a big TPS fan. Right.
Yeah. Who's not? You know, everybody loves TPS.
TNS.
Everybody hates TPS. Everybody hates Bitcoin because of the freaking TPS, right? So.
Well, but again, I always thought of Bitcoin as more of a settlement network. You know,
Yeah.
like gold is slow, but people still use it, right? There's no reason why the digital version of that shouldn't also, you know, be slow. I don't buy coffee with grains of gold. That would be stupid, right? So
Yep.
yeah, it makes total sense to me.
By the way, I just popped up the Ethereum dApps, right? And so their top 24-hour volume money makers making 525,000, whereas we just saw 52 million on the top.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
58 million on the top Tron app.
Wow, betting. Yeah, I mean, people love to gamble.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't. First of all, the lovely people at dapradar.com need to employ a JavaScript developer who knows how to sort a table, because when you click sort by users 24 hours, it treats 20 as more than 3.7k, which just like 4.9k. That like that
Well,
is
that
not.
you know that seems to be stuck up there. This one doesn't move for anything. I don't know why.
Sponsored.
Oh, okay.
Oh, there you go.
Right.
Okay.
Oh, boy.
So once you look below the sponsored, everything seems to be in order there. It just said. So when
Yeah.
you look at So when you look at these other
58.2 million on Tronbet.
right versus 6.7 on
Nice.
EOS, which is actually another gambling one.
Is that
And
is
then
that is that
Ethereum.
is that dice like the Satoshi dice? What is that?
So it says it's a gambling game.
Well, I mean, I'm just wondering if it's the same concept.
Rolling dice.
Yeah. So, but it's all good, right? You know, there's real teams behind these applications, and if you know gambling are the early adopters, so be it.
Well, and it really comes down to who's building what on what platforms, right? So.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Should be interesting year. I don't know about Ethereum, but
Yeah,
I have my eye on Tron for sure.
I'm looking forward to these, how big these chains grow, especially Tron, EOS, and ETH is already over a terabyte. So.
But I tell you what, we can use this to segue quickly into the Ethereum hard fork that's coming up, because we have we're all anticipating an Ethereum hard fork, and now that hard fork has been delayed because of vulnerabilities that were coming along. I don't know whether we're all supposed to be excited about this upcoming hard fork, though. Does anybody have an insight on that?
Fine, excited in this case. I know, aren't the miners are pretty pissed, right? Obviously.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking at some of the pieces that that they've brought onto the improvements, right? I mean, and they're without specificity, but more cost effective and overall efficient approach to processing, a better approach to accommodate network scaling, an improvement on how contracts are processed. And I'm just reading through these EIPs that are all supposed to be embedded in part of this Constantinople hard fork. 12-month delay of difficulty bomb, a better way to monetize data storage. It may, like I said, this may not be any more worthy of our time than what we're mentioning right now. right? It was supposed to happen, and then they just found some vulnerabilities, and they decided to go ahead and delay it.
Yeah, it's a typical software thing. We've done it. You know, everybody does it, right? You're just like getting ready to push the button, like, oh no, we forgot to take this out. So yeah,
All
I
right.
don't know. You know what it's going to do to Ethereum? Probably nothing. I guess I haven't really seen a lot of press or something. I mean, I know there's been press around Ethereum, the hard fork, Constantinople, all that stuff, but um, I haven't seen a lot of it lately talking about it. So I don't know how much people are really dialed into it.
Well, and I get into and I guess the most important piece about this was that everybody was going to certainly all the major exchanges were going to move with this fork, right? There wasn't
Hmm.
you know, a big uproar or resistance to it. It was all kind of being you know, accepted, and then I think, you know, that kind of got sealed when you know, Coinbase and Kraken and these other, you know, the exchanges that said, okay, you know, we're all gonna make the change with the fork. So maybe it's just really an evolutionary non-event.
I mean, it's funny to me that the politics of exchanges weighing in on things is also kind of interesting to me. Like, right? And we talk about decentralized exchanges all the time, at least, you know, privately. And it's like, you know, now we live in this world where, like, yeah, like you have to almost play nice or get the blessing, you know, of these other exchanges to carry your coin if you know, if your interest is you know, improving your product. Now something like Ethereum, you know, completely decentralized, right? So there really shouldn't be this vested interest. But most things are not. You know, most projects have you know, developers who own a large stake of that and have a vested interest in making sure those are carried on exchanges. You know.
Yeah, and a funny thing too, last week we talked about Classic, and I thought, you know, the world was over for them basically. But after doing a little bit more reading on it, the people that were most upset about it were the exchanges, right? You know, Coinbase, they got, you know, taken for a bunch of money and everything. But I guess the developers I was, you know, digging more, and they're like, yeah, we don't care, you know, basically. So, yeah, I think those exchanges, you know, they have a lot of what do you want to call it? Risk, I guess, associated with, you know, a bunch of these blockchains and stuff. So
Oh, it's hard to feel bad for the exchanges, right? I mean,
oh yeah, no way.
I mean, they're making
Boo-hoo.
money. Yeah, they're making money hand over fist. I don't know. We're worried about that. So
Yeah, what
anyway,
is it, Binance, couple billion or something, and you know, this bear market, it's just like no one is shedding a tear for them. And you know, Binance, to their credit, they're doing a lot of, you know, really good stuff too. So, you know, they're, you know, quote good. I mean, depends, I guess, how you look at everything, but you know, they have all their like investment stuff they're starting to do, their labs, you know, all those types of things. So
well, and you just segued into Binance because there was an article that came up on Binance, you know, basically about, you know, creating another, you know, on ramp, you know, in the EU, which is great, right? We want to hear that. The more, you know, the more on ramps that they can make into crypto, you know, the better for, you know, the better for the community.
Yeah. Better for the world.
Yeah. So Binance, you know, Binance feels like it's one of the good guy exchanges, right?
Still waiting on their decks.
Yeah, but anyway,
it's interesting because you think about, you want to get into crypto, you know, how can you do it? If you have something like a local Bitcoins, there's a way that you can, excuse me, convert, you know, your fiat over, right? To at least to Bitcoin. From there, once you have Bitcoin, you can jump into anything. But you know, local Bitcoins is illegal in the US. I think they prosecute people for money laundering and stuff, whatever they're doing with that. So it's really like, you know, these big providers are the only way, you know, to get onto that stuff.
Yeah,
and then,
like
you know, from there, once you have your crypto, you can go DEX if there is anything that has any decent volume worth using. But yeah.
Yeah, there's a specific law for that. It's like money. Yeah, something. It's not money laundering. I mean, essentially that's what the charge is, right? But yeah, it's
money transmission.
money transmission service or whatever, right?
Bullshit.
Which and that's the whole thing, right? They'd love. I'd imagine they would love to make cash completely gone, because that is a way to do transactions in the dark if you want. If you don't want people to know what you just bought, whether that's a pack of smokes or porn on the internet, right? Whatever that thing might be, you still have that option. Well, I guess that's a bad example. You can't buy porn on the internet with cash, but you know what I mean. It's the last bastion of these non-snooped transactions, and crypto in general would be great to solve that problem, across borders without having to physically transfer cash to somebody. We've seen that with some of these other more privacy centric coins, your Dashes and your Moneros, right? A little more so than Bitcoin. I'm surprised those haven't taken off more, to be totally honest. Zcash, yeah. There's a handful of them, and I don't mean to segue too much, but I mean, it surprises me that those haven't really taken off a little bit more.
Yeah. Well, you probably say that it's because there's not a big influx of retail like there was last year, right? So there isn't probably the mindset of people wanting to, try different coins or experiment. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Well, maybe there's just not as many bad people, right? Aren't the privacy coins and all that kind of stuff? That's all. That's all for bad stuff. So maybe there's less bad people.
Sure.
Speaking of the underworld and nefarious things, moving on to Cryptopia, if you guys don't mind the segue.
Yeah, go for it.
So by now everybody knows Cryptopia got hacked. Those of you who don't know, Cryptopia is a shitcoin exchange out of New Zealand. They were the Binance, in my opinion, before Binance. I mean, they listed any coin out there. If you had the money to pay them, they'd list your shitcoin. If there were some great pumps on Cryptopia for a long time, and then other changes like Binance, etc., came out. So anyways, Cryptopia used to be a cool exchange for those coins that would pump 100-200% in a day, and they got hacked. It was 3.6 million, I believe, 2.4 in ETH, and 1.2 in another coin. I'm
looking for it.
Yeah, the other coin, it was a shit coin. Never heard of it. But yeah, it was like 1.2 in that.
Here you go.
2.4. Yeah,
2.4 in Ethereum.
Yeah, 2.4 in Ethereum.
Wow.
And so Cryptopia is totally shut down. Police are investigating. Nobody knows what's going on, and Cryptopia won't say anything. So everybody's kind of screwed. I think I had some residual coins on there that just left on there, probably in the bear market, not worth a lot, but it always sucks to lose coins. One note, some Twitter sleuths have been watching the coin movements and noticed some of them were going to Binance. So they alerted Binance, and Binance has frozen those accounts.
Yeah.
So there's going to be some recovery of the coins, but who knows how much.
Yeah, we've said 100 times, it's like, if you don't own your keys, you don't own the coin.
Yeah.
But the exchanges are a custodian of your assets. So
right.
I know, I won't name any names, but I've seen people that held way more assets than I would be comfortable with on exchanges live, and I'm like, dude, why do you do that? Like I get it's convenient, but with convenience comes risk. And so as long as you understand that, Oh, okay, but I think there's a lot of people that don't understand that risk, and they don't really know. They don't consider that these things do, and these things have happened, over and over, right?
And will continue to happen.
And will continue to happen. Absolutely. So, it's got to be a calculated risk for you. Don't keep a ton of your funds, on an exchange, because there's no. There's no rollback. There's no chargeback. It's like it's gone. That's the way crypto works. So anyway, that's your PSA.
Eric, does that segue into the graphic that you shared with me earlier? The PSA. You want to move into this PSA?
Well, okay. So this is this kind of goes back to the DPoS stuff. The blockchain. This is screenshotted from Stop and Decrypt's discussion on the Ethereum blockchain size, and this was March or May of 2018, and he was going into, what is a blockchain, what is it used for, and this, this description right here is perfect. What is a blockchain for, and I think it's important, especially for newcomers who get into the space, to understand the limitations of a blockchain, what it does, what it should do, and then go out and if you want to dump your money into shitcoins, have at it. But I think this is a great quick explanation, what a blockchain is.
Yeah, and I want to jump in real quick too. Like, not everything should be blockchainized. You know what I mean? It's like there are plenty of times where a centralized database makes more sense in terms of speed and reliability. Like, not everything makes a good candidate to be on the blockchain. So, just want to throw that out there too.
Well, no, and I think that's what we saw. In these thousands of ICOs and in thousands of coins. Like I said, there was a lot of, I would say, probably most of the projects really didn't require a blockchain. They could have just lived on a centralized database. So case in point, those projects will die, right? Because they won't be better than a centralized project.
Well, and this ties into DPoS and Trex. We're talking about centralization. If you have 27 validators, who make the changes to the blockchain, and they're all running their machines on AWS, and Amazon goes down, or the government comes in,
Sure.
And says, hey, we want you guys to censor, this wallet, that wallet, it's bad news.
Well, here's the other thing though. I agree with all that. Yeah, you shouldn't have everything on a blockchain. But I also think in the news, there's been this massive backlash again, in the news, that they're just loving the fact that a bunch of companies are created and projects and stuff. Well, that being said, I still think there's tons of stuff that can go onto some kind of, immutable, decentralized ledger. I don't think blockchain's a bad idea at all. And there's, there's some pretty good YouTubers that have, CS degrees, and, they talk against it. But seeing enough, applications and working in enough startups, and I know what people want to do with that data. And I think for really, really important things like medical stuff like that, that's a really, really good use case. Even though medical probably needs a lot of, fast lookup or something possibly, there's just certain things where it totally makes sense. And you want to own your own medical record and take it around with you wherever. Your family like archive, right? How are you going to save all of your family pictures, videos, whatever, over the generations? I mean, you can't put them in a shoebox now. You gotta digitize everything. So there's all kinds of things that I think it's very valid for. And there's all kinds of ways too that you can build the core protocol. I mean, you can almost think like a lightning type of thing. You build the core protocol and you hang all these other pieces off the sides of it, you know, to
Yeah,
do
layer two.
Yeah. So I don't know. I still think this is the place to be if you're building things.
Well,
Uh,
there's also this other piece too. Like when I used to do the Bitcoin talks and about disruption, think about how disruptive it would be for even something like a title agency. You know, we have this entire industry that does nothing but rubber stamp titles. And when you buy a house, it's like, you know, right? And all of this whole industry is just, it's built around paper pushing. It's huge.
I used to work in title.
Okay, so you know, right? So that could be totally gone.
You're
like,
one of them.
We don't. Well, so my brother too. My brother owned a title agency, right? So like, you don't need title agencies, right? You just need everybody to agree that this ledger is what.
Yeah, that's an interesting segue, because what title does is it ensures that the chain of title is correct.
Right.
That,
exactly. Right.
You know, this is the plot of land. You know, all of the prior loans against that land have been paid off, etc. So there's a chain of title, which that's actually an interesting use case. And I think Ragnar has he's into that side of the world. But going back really quickly, it seems like there's other use cases for blockchain. But Jay, if you can pull that graphic back up real quick, it's like, you know, how is it decentralized, and what are the rewards, you know, for the people maintaining that blockchain?
Do you see it? It's
yeah. I'm the one switching those. I'm good. Yeah. When you guys say something like that, I can just click on it and make it live, and then go back to switching for audio. So it's up. Anyway.
Yeah, that was my comment. It's like.
All right. Well, fair enough. All right. Well, we want to. So, look, Ripple continues to be in the news again. You know, big project. You know, there was no shortage. I'm trying to figure out if they just have great marketing, because they are constantly in the news. And it just seems to be the same news that we see, you know, last week, right? We're either adding more banks, you know, we're fixing to do cross-border transactions. This is all going to happen super fast. So I don't know if it's you know, worthy of any more of our time than what we spoke about last week. But nevertheless, when we look at hot topics that are getting a lot of commentary, you know, Ripple continues to be, you know, right there at the top.
Yeah, something just came across Twitter and I forgot to bookmark it. I thought I liked it, but I guess I must have not liked it. And it was one of the banks, I think it was in Europe, is using their own system. They're not using Ripple. It was one of the big banks too. So somebody pointed
and something other than Swift. So something other than Ripple. Something really.
Yes.
Well, that one surprised me. You know, and the other what I noticed in one of these articles, and I just brought it up, is that there's, I don't know why I would have thought it was a different number, but you know, there's 11,000 banks that are using Swift, and I don't know, for some reason, I would have thought that number would have been a much larger number. So the target to hit for Ripple. Again, it's probably much more attainable than what was in my head. You know, if they're already, you know, into several hundred banks, and that's continuing to grow on a regular basis, you know, they probably do have a lot to crow about.
Did you say crow about?
I did.
I see what you did there.
Yeah. Hey, look, that was not his question. All right. So anyway, enough about Ripple. We talked about Binance. You know,
I'm sorry on Ripple though, because again, we've gone around this for a while. It's always in the news, and it's like, you know, we talk about banks would use Ripple. It's like, but why? Like, what's the motive for them to use Ripple when they could just make their own? Doing the same thing. Like that part doesn't really ever sit with me well. Like, explain to me why international settlements need to use Ripple as opposed to their own private chain that they would make themselves.
Yeah, exactly. And the banks and finance have been in crypto for quite a few years behind the scenes. So they've been toying around with their own chains and whatnot.
Well, the case it's going to be the same case that's made for any institution developing its own software versus outsourcing it. So Ripple's pitch will be, look, we can do it better, faster, cheaper than you can doing it in house, right? And that's not to say that there won't be other entities that that produce their own protocols over time, and
Sure.
and really what we may see, Swift. What we may see is a big fracturing of that entire piece of market, where Swift was the dominant player and essentially the only player for so long. Give it another couple of years.
I mean, I see Swift as a competitor to Ripple, not a homeboy, right? Like, these guys are like, whoa, you're stepping on our territory. So like, I just don't see it. So
no. Swift was the dominant power, and Ripple walked into their space, and they're starting to chip away.
Well,
at
that's
it.
what I'm saying. But you see you see these articles of people. Oh, they're partnering with Swift is partnering with Ripple. I'm like, but why would they do that? Like, I mean, I should say that. Remember, there's a difference between Ripple and Ripple the company and XRP, right? It's two different things. But like, I can't see the argument for why Swift would want to say, oh yeah, cool, we'll use your stuff, instead of just trying to develop their own.
Hey, Jay really does not like Swift, so just so you know.
Duly noted.
I think we're gonna have the Jay does not like Swift bit on every show from here throughout the rest of the year.
All right, I'm gonna look. I need to get a T-shirt made.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
All right. Message received. No more Ripple Swift.
Let's talk about Swift for an hour. Let's do it.
We need to have some kind of funny relief on here. So
Look,
anyway.
let's move on to let's move on to Wall Street here, right? So this piqued my attention, right? Goldman Sachs backed Circle says it's all in on crypto.
yeah,
Right.
Circle's pretty. Those guys.
It's
It's another one to watch. Company-wide.
and it goes to what you're saying before, right? These guys, regardless of what you hear in the media, in the background, everybody's digging in, right? They're either doing it through acquisition, or or they're doing it on their own, or there's no, what do they say? Like I said, you don't listen to the media, right? This is happening, and there's more than sufficient evidence that says, hey, the big boys are getting entrenched, and it's just a matter of time. So, like I said, this hit my radar. I just thought I would bring it up and see if anybody had something to say.
Yeah, the other thing is, Circle has done a huge amount of OTC this past year. I forget what it was. It was like billions or hundreds of millions or something like that. But it's like, they own Polo. They have this big successful OTC business. Jeremy Allaire, anybody in the software industry knows him. It's like that he's like one of those basically mavericks that's very quiet and low key, but he's worked on some of the biggest, products in tech, over the last like 15, 20 years. So whenever I see his name attached to something, I'm like, huh? And, now that he's into crypto, I'm like, huh? And yeah, I think they're steamrolling. So,
Well, and like I said, they're saying that their market cap ballooned by 90 million in the last week alone.
Jesus.
Right.
It'd be nice if they could, turn Polo around or something. That remains to be seen, of course. But yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Something's going on there. Then all right, so let's move on to Backed, right? So we know we were talking earlier. Backed, the date just switched for Backed. Is that what we were saying?
Well, we're not sure, right? It could be
nobody knows.
Yeah, it could be government shutdown, could be whatever. It was supposed to be January 24th. but it sounds like they kind of backed off of that. They backed off of it. Yeah, I know. I'm here all night, folks. Tip your waitresses.
Well, everybody wants back the savior, right? Oh, please, come on,
Right.
bring the price back up.
And I did see some interesting stuff. I was talking with the guys earlier. Look at the ICE documents. It sounds like their maximum, position is 100,000 lots, which would be 100,000 Bitcoin. If you wanted to trade that amount, you could.
Jeez,
right? I mean, if I read that correctly, they specify what a lot is, and a lot was 1 Bitcoin, and then underneath the Binance section, or the backed section, it was like, oh yeah, here, that's for futures, I think, is the difference. But
right,
for me though, like, that's a big deal. I think backed is a big deal. I think the fact that they're talking about doing quote unquote physical settlement is huge. I think that is a big deal. And if you're not in finance, you don't realize how much red tape there really is to taking client money and doing something with it. Hedge funds have a little bit more flexibility, but these more traditional things like your 401ks, your pension funds, they have really strict rules about what they can and can't do. And crypto is not on that radar until there is a thing like backed in place that has the insurance and the credibility to allow you to make those transactions. And then, and even then, we're talking, those alpha portions are probably pretty small. But dude, if you've got a $1 trillion hedge fund and your alpha portion is 0.5%, dude, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of demand. I know we didn't put on here. There was an article I posted in our channel about Russia talking about trying to buy a bunch of Bitcoin, and I was like, man, if that's true, like that's pretty big too. But that could be all just a bunch of bullshit too. I mean, who knows?
Yeah, the economy. I just saw something that came by about an hour ago that economist that talked about that was also saying that Bitcoin was going to go down to $100 last year, and then
awesome,
and then go to some crazy amount this year. So yeah, he's
cool.
He's got a.
So he's drinking some of that special Russian sauce.
Getting that $100 Bitcoin so he can cash out at $100K 12 months later.
Dude, if we see $100 Bitcoin, I will. I need to make some kind of a bold thing I'll do. I don't see that happening. I really don't.
No.
I think some of these low calls I've seen are just kind of like, dude, really? Like, I don't know. I mean, anything's possible, I guess, but.
I mean, we bounced around 5 or 6 for like months, right? So it's like we dropped then, a lot down. It's possible, I guess. Anything's possible, but I don't know. I'm hoping we hit bottom as everybody else is.
I will shed tears live if we get to $100. You guys can feed on J-Rod's tears.
I mean, nobody. Yeah, look, we all look at it like Alessio Rastani and those guys, and nobody is going down that low. Not one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And hell, if it does, what's that mean? Buy, right?
And I get going these long cycles.
Mortgage your house.
But I don't know that you can discount the fact that the markets were different then. Like they're like, wow, look at the charts. Okay, but dude, there was one exchange, like there wasn't really any knowledge about it, right? So like trying to draw these parallels between 2013 and 2019, I don't know, man.
Come on, dude, that's only like 6 years. That's only like 120 years in crypto.
Yeah, right. It's crypto time. I don't know, man.
That would be like living in the 1800s, and then you wake up and you're like, what is this electric thing that can drive itself around and has rubber wheels?
It's amazing.
Yeah. But hey, guys, we went through all the articles, so I don't know if there's anything else we wanna pop up. How long have we been on? How long have we been doing this?
50 minutes.
A whopping 50 minutes. Yeah, somebody real quick. Somebody asked, Sam04 asked about Neo and VeChain. That's good, actually. We should probably check into that for next week. Neo, honestly, I don't know too much about Neo.
Well, I did. When we were doing our grading stuff, if you recall, I did do some research into Neo. It seemed pretty solid. I don't know anything about VeChain.
Didn't they get hacked or something happened? Are they the one? Are they based out of Japan or something?
China, I believe.
No, they're China.
Yeah.
They were the Chinese version of Ethereum.
Right.
And the thing I like about Neo is I made a boatload of money.
I made a few. I made a few too.
When they were still ant shares.
Oh yeah, right when it switched. Yeah, it went nuts. Oh yeah.
And
yeah.
Sold the top.
I did not sell the top. I was close. I did okay. Okay.
Well, then we did good today. Like I said, if we got almost an hour in. I think we had planned this to be 20, 30 minutes anyway. So I guess we had a lot to say.
That's not going to happen. Yeah, you can't put 5 people in a room and get them condensed to 30 minutes. That's tough.
Yeah.
Well, kudos to the 13 people.
If I didn't have to do kid's birthday, but I'm getting yelled at right now. So
awesome. All right. Well, we're good.
Family's important, man.
We appreciate the 13 people that
get out of here.
The 13 people that watched us. We love you. Maybe we'll get some views later, but
let's get that up to 15 next week.
Some of the, to be honest, some of this is for us too. We like to just BS. So
20.
Yeah, I'll come loaded for Bear next week. I got lots of Bitcoin news.
Sweet.
All right,
cool.
All right,
All right,
till next
signing
week.
off. See you guys later.